So we're here today at Gosh Comics with Jason Aaron. Jason, thank you for being here and talking to us. And is this your first time in England?
Yep, first time in the UK, yep.
And how have you found it here so far?
It's great. I spent today just kind of wandering around the city and doing touristy stuff. And yeah, I had a great time.
Fantastic. Well, it's been a very busy week for you this week. You've had Scalped, the final trade, come out. That's your kind of create your own book. So how has it been doing that book as opposed to one for Marvel, doing it by yourself? And what's it like now that it's all finished and over with?
It's strange. Like, it's been strange along the way. Like kind of each, signpost as the book wrapped up. Like I remember when Jock turned in his last cover and Gara turned in his last pages, and I did the last script and last lettering corrections, and now this week the last trade came out, so that's it. Like it's it's officially done. So that it's strange. I mean, it like you said, it's mine as opposed to the work for hire stuff I've done, so it's a little like one of my children. It's kind of my baby. But it's all through that whole process. Like I've still been excited to wrap it up. It was always intended as a story with a very specific beginning, middle, and end. So it had to end when it ended. And thankfully, people who followed the book really seemed to respond and like the ending. So it's great. I mean, it's something that'll be around for as long as I'm around. So. And it'll always be special. It was always like kind of my first big creator-owned book, and really the book that led to everything else I've done in comics. So it'll always have a special little place in my heart.
And do you have any plans to do any more creator-owned work in the near future, or is that a while off yet?
No, it's in the works. I mean, I'm already working on my next creator-owned thing. It's not something I can talk about yet. Not something that I'm ready to announce just yet, but. Yeah, I mean, as long as I'm in comics, I want to do stuff that's mine, that's original. I love superhero stuff. I love what I'm doing with Marvel, but I think I'd go crazy if I was only doing superhero stuff. Just like I would go crazy if I was only writing Scalped all the time. I like being able to mix it up and do different stuff like that. And it just makes sense to do stuff that's yours, that you own a piece of. And I think it's good for the industry to do stuff beyond just mainstream superhero work. I love mainstream superhero work, and there's a lot of good writers working in mainstream comics, but we're capable of so much more in comics.
And obviously, speaking of mainstream superhero comics, you've also had Thor #1 out this week, and I've got to say I absolutely loved it, and there was a lot of instead of kind of the superhero aspect of it, it felt very fantasy as opposed to the over-the-top superhero action. Is that something you intended to go down the more fantasy route with this book, or is that just something that happened?
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of happened. I mean, I just sort of wrote the story and it became what it became. But yeah, I mean, there are fantasy elements, there are horror elements, there's kind of a crime detective story element to it, so there's a lot going on. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to strip it down, kind of strip away Thor's supporting cast and figure out like who is this god and why should we care and why do I want to hang out with him for so many issues. So it focuses in pretty squarely on Thor, to the point where Thor kind of becomes his own supporting cast, and that there are 3 Thors in the book: young Thor, present day Thor, and old Thor. And that'll kind of be the mandate going forward for the foreseeable future. This first story is really 10 issues, really 2 arcs or 1 big story, and we'll continue to see all 3 versions of Thor throughout that story.
And is there any kind of story hints you can give us now, or anything going forward with the book that you can tell us about?
Well, the next issue, issue 2, focuses mostly on young Thor, the brash young mead drinking god of the Vikings who carries a giant axe. So we see his first meeting with the God Butcher, which, as you can imagine, doesn't go well. So it's really a big fight issue at first. A lot more action than was in the first issue, and more of those kind of fantasy elements, lots of winged horses and other gods, and lots of Viking action as well, which I love writing all that stuff. And then the issue after that, issue 3, focuses mostly on present day Thor, and we continue this kind of cosmic detective story as he's trying to track down the God Butcher.
So just before we talk about Wolverine and the X-Men, I got back into comics about a year and a half ago kind of thing, and one of the books that I bought kind of in my reinsurgence is Hulk, and it's a book that me and Dale have both enjoyed. I just wanted to ask you about kind of the thought going into the book, and in case anyone hasn't picked it up, kind of an overview, what it's about and your ideas behind it.
I just wanted to do a different kind of different kind of Hulk story. Initially it was not going to be an ongoing book. It was a Hulk miniseries, and the idea was kind of to do an Apocalypse Now or sort of Hearts of Darkness story, but flip the hero role, so that make the Hulk kind of the hero and Banner the madman that he was going to bring down. By the time it was all wrapped up, it's like a year of Hulk, like 15 issues or so, I think. It was a lot of fun. It's a different kind of Hulk story. It's not a Peter David's Hulk or Greg Pak's Hulk. I mean, I love that stuff. I've been reading Hulk for years. I love Bruce Jones' run. It's from time to time you've got to mix things up. You can't continue to do exactly the same kind of stories with the characters that have been around for 50 years without it getting stagnant. So I was fun to be able to mix it up a little bit.
I'm just going to ask about the art on that, but there's a lot of different artists that kind of come in and go throughout. Is that something you can ever foresee? Do you have to kind of work that in, or do you just roll with that as it comes along?
Well, with like the Stay Angry arc, that was set up to use different artists, because each issue, was a dramatically different story. Hulk comes to his senses in a completely different location, different villains, different other characters involved. So that made it easy to have different artists each issue, and I got to work with some really great guys on that, some of whom I'd never worked with before. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the way it works out these days with the way books double ship. You're not really going to have one artist doing a year's worth of stories in a row anymore. It's really hard to find that. I mean, I think with Marvel now, you'll see more of that. You'll see more, or at least more of a concerted effort to have one writer and one artist paired up for longer runs, like on Thor. Esad Ribic's, hopefully can do like the first 2 arcs in a row. So you'll see more of that.
So I was out with a group of people that go to our local comic shop, and I told a girl that I was going to be talking to you today, and I said, is there anything you want me to ask him? And she said, ask him why. Just ask him why. And she was, of course, referring to what happened to the little alien that we fell in love with, Brew. And so, yeah, on her behalf, I just have to ask why.
I'd just say it's all part of the plan. It's all part of the story. It was not something I did arbitrarily. It's not something I did just to be cruel. But it's great. I mean, the whole response to that issue, even the people online who were calling me a monster, I found really heartwarming, because it's a new character in a different kind of X-Men book. So it's great that people have responded so strongly to it. I would just say keep reading, and again, it's all part of the story. It happened for a reason. We'll just have to wait and see what that reason was.
Yeah, I've been loving Wolverine and the X-Men. I love the huge ensemble cast that we get with this, different to what we got on Hulk and what we're getting on Thor. Going forward with Wolverine and the X-Men, what I really liked is how with it being a school, it kind of works in kind of terms. I like the way it ended with the school dance kind of thing. Yeah. Can we expect more of that? Obviously, it was kind of broken up a bit by the crazy AVX stuff. Right. So how's that going forward?
Well, you'll continue to see a lot of different stuff. Still a big cast. I'll continue to jump around and focus on different characters. We'll see stuff that focuses on the school and on the students. And we'll also, in the next year, see the first really big kind of traditional X-Men arc. So a couple arcs that are more about, X-Men as superheroes out in the world on adventures. So continue to go back and forth. I mean, it's still at heart a school book, and it revolves around the school. It's a different sort of X-Men book in terms of tone and setting than we've seen in a while. And the cast will continue to get shaken up on occasion, just like with Brew getting shot in the head. There's still some more surprises to come. Some more bad things will happen to some of our kids. Some more villains pop up. And yeah, I think the next year will be the biggest year for the book so far.
All right, cool. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Big fan. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers.